You're not here by mistake. I want you to feel that first. Out of all the videos, all the distractions, you landed here because something in you has already crossed into a higher timeline. And that's why what I'm about to share is going to feel less like information and more like recognition, like remembering what you already knew but couldn't quite touch. There's a strange tension you've probably been feeling lately. The sense that everything is about to change, but the outer world hasn't caught up yet. Maybe it looks like doors closing, silence after effort, patterns repeating even though you swore you outgrew them. And the temptation is to believe it means you're failing, that you missed it, that somehow you're late. But here's the paradox. The closer you are to a breakthrough, the more distorted the mirror becomes. Reality flickers. Old reflections linger just a little longer before the glass clears. And that flicker, that distortion, is not proof you're stuck. It's proof you're on the edge. Think of it this way. Every moment is a mirror showing you the identity you're broadcasting. Not your wish list, not your daydreams, but the vibration of who you actually believe yourself to be. And when your future self, the one already living the timeline you ache for, starts to lean forward through the glass, the old and the new overlap for a while. That overlap is disorienting. That's where you are right now. You were drawn here because something in you is ready to stop mistaking the distortion for defeat. You're ready to stop reacting to the mirror and start shaping what it reflects. And once you see how this really works, you'll understand why the delay, the silence, even the frustration are the very signs that you're already leveling up. Because the mirror is about to shift. And when it does, everything you thought was holding you back will reveal itself as the threshold. When you look into a mirror, you know instinctively that the reflection isn't the source. You don't try to fix your hair by adjusting the glass. You don't wipe the surface hoping your face will suddenly be different. You turn inward. You change yourself. And the mirror follows without resistance. Reality works the same way. The outer world is not the origin. It's the reflection. Yet most of us, without realizing it, keep trying to rearrange the glass. We hustle to push circumstances into shape, thinking if we force the external, the internal will finally feel different. But in the quantum field, the signal flows the other way. Think of your identity as the face, your beliefs, your emotional baseline, your unconscious self-concept. That's the actual image being broadcast. And reality, the timeline you perceive, is just the mirror surface giving it form. Every conversation, every silence, every unexpected detour in your path is a reflection of what the deeper self is radiating, not as punishment, but as precision feedback. The field doesn't lie. Now here's where it gets slippery. The mirror doesn't only reflect what you consciously affirm, it reflects the hidden tensions, the nervous system's stored memories, the identity you may not even admit you're carrying. If there's a part of you still wired for lack, you'll notice life mirroring shortage. If a part of you expects rejection, you'll see echoes of distance. It can feel cruel, but once you understand the mechanics, you see it's actually the most reliable compass you have. And something else happens the moment you begin shifting identities. The mirror lags. Just like a screen buffering when the signal upgrades, reality takes time to recalibrate. This is why breakthroughs so often feel like breakdowns. The old reflection keeps showing up, almost taunting you, even as your inner identity is already elsewhere. That delay is not failure. It's evidence the shift is underway. But here's the pivot. Almost everyone misinterprets that lag. They see the old reflection and assume it means they haven't changed, so they collapse back into the same old broadcast. It's like fixing your hair, glancing at the mirror too soon and thinking nothing happened, so you undo the progress. This is where most people cycle endlessly, stuck in a loop of effort without transformation. What changes everything is recognizing the lag for what it is. Proof of the upgrade, not the absence of it. But there's a dangerous myth around this that keeps people trapped even when they start to grasp the mirror. And unless you break that myth, you'll keep waiting for permission that never comes. And that myth, that's what we need to shatter. The most dangerous myth in manifestation is this, that you need to see proof in the mirror before you trust the shift inside, that you need life to confirm your new identity before you commit to it. But notice how backward that is. Imagine standing before a mirror and demanding that the reflection smile at you before you've moved your own lips. It's absurd, yet that's exactly how most people treat reality. They say, I'll believe I'm abundant when the money arrives. I'll trust I'm loved when the text comes through. I'll feel confident when the opportunity shows up. That's not how mirrors work. The reflection always waits for you. The quantum field always matches the inner frequency first. Waiting for evidence is the surest way to stay in limbo, because the mirror has nothing new to copy. Let's ground this in something ordinary. Picture this. You send a message to someone you care about. Maybe it's someone new, maybe it's someone you secretly hope will validate that you matter. You hit send, and then comes the silence. Minutes stretch into hours. Your nervous system starts firing. Thoughts spiral. Did I say the wrong thing? Did they lose interest? What does this mean about me? Now, here's what's actually happening. The mirror is testing which self you'll anchor in. Will you collapse back into the old identity of doubt and unworthiness, broadcasting that signal into the field? Or will you hold steady in the knowing that you are already chosen, already valued, already whole, regardless of how quickly a reply shows up? That silence is not emptiness. It's the reflective surface showing you your own signal in real time. If you read it as rejection, you strengthen the broadcast of rejection. If you read it as neutral, even as proof of your unshakable worth, you stabilize the identity your future timeline requires. And once you hold that identity long enough, the mirror has no choice but to shift. The text, the call, the opportunity. Those are side effects, not causes. This is the part most people never see. They abandon the new self the second the old reflection lingers, thinking it means nothing's working. But the truth is, that silence, that waiting, that delay is the exact moment the universe is asking, will you fold or will you embody? And if you knew how precise the mirror really is, you'd never again confuse the lag for failure. Because what comes next is the key to unlocking the only real signal that the quantum field listens to. Here's the pivot most people overlook. The mirror doesn't respond to what you say. It responds to the signal your nervous system is broadcasting beneath the words. You can repeat affirmations all day. You can write vision boards and journal until your hand cramps. But if your body is locked in survival, the field picks that up as the dominant transmission. The reflection will always bend to your baseline state, not your conscious slogans. Think of it this way. If your heart is racing with fear, if your breath is shallow, if your gut is tight with anticipation, the mirror is reading that as your identity. Not because you're broken, but because biology always speaks louder than fantasy. The quantum field is exquisitely sensitive. It mirrors coherence, not pretense. This is why safety matters more than effort. When your nervous system feels safe, it shifts from fight or flight into coherence. Your brain waves and heart rhythms sync. That synchronization is like polishing the mirror. Suddenly, the reflection becomes clear, responsive, pliable. Without that coherence, the glass stays fogged, no matter how hard you push. So how do you create that coherence? Let's make it simple. Right now, if you're willing, pause with me. Place one hand on your chest, one on your lower belly. Close your eyes for just a moment. Breathe slowly into the lower hand, as if your breath could expand your center of gravity downward. Let your shoulders drop. Now imagine the breath gently rising to your chest, under your top hand, and exhale as if releasing static. Do this for 3 cycles. That's less than a minute, but notice what shifts. You're not forcing a thought. You're giving your body the message. It's safe to be here. It's safe to receive. And the moment your biology receives that message, the mirror starts recalibrating. Because coherence is the language the field actually listens to. This is why people say they can feel someone's presence before they speak. Why a room changes when one calm, grounded person walks in. Coherence radiates, it entrains. And when you practice coherence, even in small doses, your reality has no choice but to begin reflecting it back. But here's the hidden snag. Most people stop here, thinking they only need to create moments of calm. They confuse a temporary state with a permanent identity. And that confusion is what keeps the mirror flickering instead of stabilizing. Which brings us to the next layer, the shift that turns fleeting states into the timeline you actually live in. A calm breath can shift your state. A moment of focus can spark a surge of clarity. But here's what you've probably noticed. States are fragile. They rise, they pass, and as soon as life presses the old buttons, the nervous system snaps back. That's why so many people feel like they're doing the work, but not seeing lasting results. Because the mirror doesn't respond to flashes of state. It stabilizes around identity. Think of it this way. You can smile for a photograph, but unless joy is woven into your way of being, the camera of reality won't keep recording it. The field reads your baseline, your default self-concept. Not the mood of the hour, but the person you keep returning to when you're tired, when you're triggered, when no one's watching. That's the true broadcast. So if you meditate in the morning, align your energy, feel expansive, but by afternoon you're collapsed into scarcity, worrying over bills, doubting whether you're worthy, the mirror is taking its cue from the latter, not as punishment, but as fidelity. The reflection always copies the strongest, most consistent signal. Here's the real shift. Stop chasing states and start embodying identity. Instead of saying, I felt abundant for 10 minutes, ask, who am I becoming as a person? Instead of trying to feel confident before a presentation, anchor into, I am someone who moves through life as confidence itself. The difference is subtle but radical. A state visits you. An identity inhabits you. When you step into identity, the mirror begins to reorganize itself around you. You don't have to constantly re-stimulate the feeling. It becomes self-sustaining. Like a posture you've trained into your muscles, it holds without effort. And from there, the outer shifts begin to lock in. Opportunities land and stay. Relationships reflect consistency. Finances stop swinging like a pendulum, because the glass is finally clear, reflecting one steady signal. But here's where the story widens. Because identity doesn't just change the reflection in small increments, it actually determines which mirror you're standing in front of. Every identity corresponds to a timeline, a version of reality already existing in the field. And when you shift identity, you don't just change the details in your current mirror, you can step into an entirely new one. That's the doorway we're about to open. The truth is, your timelines are already waiting, lined up like parallel mirrors. And the identity you embody determines which glass you're standing in front of. The real question is, which reflection are you about to walk into? Think of timelines as a hall of mirrors. Each one already exists. Some showing you thriving, some showing you stuck, some showing you versions of yourself you've barely imagined. None of these mirrors are more real than the others. They're all possibilities, waiting for one thing, the identity you stand in. Your identity is like the anchor that plants you in front of a specific mirror. If you embody the self who doubts, who hesitates, who expects disappointment, you'll find yourself consistently facing the mirror that reflects exactly that world back to you. Not because you're being punished, but because that's the reflection you're aligned to. But when you begin embodying the self who already lives the breakthrough, someone grounded, coherent, worthy, you suddenly find the reflection shifting. You don't force it. You don't push the glass. The mirror you're facing simply changes. Different opportunities show up. New people enter the picture. Even the way strangers respond to you shifts, because the reflection is precise to the identity standing there. Let me bring this into something you've probably felt. Imagine you're walking into a job interview. If you walk in carrying the identity of, I hope they like me, I hope I'm good enough, the mirror will faithfully reflect back nerves, shaky words, subtle rejection in their eyes. But if you walk in as the self who knows, I am already aligned with the right place, I bring value just by showing up, the energy you radiate changes the mirror entirely. Suddenly the questions flow. The room relaxes. The reflection is coherent with the identity. It's not that you became smarter in that moment or learned a new skill. You simply shifted which mirror you were standing in front of, and the field reorganized instantly. This is what people miss. Timelines don't require linear time to unfold. They require identity coherence. The self you embody dictates the hall you walk down, the reflection you meet. And the moment you commit to a new identity, not as a fleeting state, but as a lived truth, the mirror you're in front of recalibrates to match. But here's where it gets exciting. If identity selects the timeline, then you're not trapped waiting for the reflection to change. You're free to choose which hall you enter. The mirrors are already lined up. The reflection of your highest self already exists. The only missing piece is whether you'll embody the one who walks into it. And in order to make that embodiment practical, not just lofty words, you need tools. Anchors you can use daily to stabilize into the identity your future requires. And I want to share a few of those with you next. If identity is the anchor that selects the mirror, then the real work isn't about waiting for the reflection to change. It's about holding the new identity steady until the glass clears. And that's where tools matter. Not because the tools are magic on their own, but because they train your nervous system and your attention to embody the broadcast your future timeline already requires. Let me share a simple protocol. Small practices you can use every day to stabilize. Tool 1. The future self posture. Your body broadcasts identity before your words ever do. So once a day, stand as if you were already the self who crossed into the breakthrough. Shoulders back, chest open, breath deep, gaze steady. Don't wait for the mood to create the posture. Use the posture to summon the mood. Hold it for 2 minutes. It sends a signal to your nervous system. This is who I am now. Tool 2. Mirror calibration. Each morning, look into your literal mirror. Instead of just brushing teeth or fixing hair, pause and meet your own eyes. Say out loud, I am already living my future. Not with desperation, but as a steady declaration. Notice if your body resists. Tight shoulders, shallow breath, and soften into coherence before repeating. This daily ritual rewires how you relate to your own reflection, both literal and quantum. Tool 3. Anchor object. Choose one small object, a ring, a stone, a coin, and assign it as a reminder of your future self. Each time you touch it throughout the day, pause for one breath and remember, I walk in the hall of mirrors as the one who has already chosen. Tiny cues like this stabilize identity because they interrupt unconscious drift. Tool 4. Comment ritual. And I want you to practice one anchor right here, right now. In the comments, write this sentence exactly. I am already living my future. Don't just type it. Feel it as a declaration. Because when you write it, you're not just telling me, you're telling the field. You're stamping that signal into the collective mirror we all share. And when you see others writing it too, you'll feel the coherence of belonging to a larger field holding the same frequency. These practices may feel small, almost too simple, but simplicity is the point. Complexity overwhelms the nervous system. Small anchors repeated consistently create identity stabilization. And once identity stabilizes, timelines shift faster than you can rationally explain. But of course, the path isn't smooth every moment. Even when you stabilize, obstacles appear. Subtle sabotages that blur the mirror and try to pull you back. And unless you recognize them, they can drag you right into the old hall again. Once you start embodying a new identity, the mirror begins to shift. But here's the catch. Distortions often intensify right before the reflection stabilizes. And in that window, 3 subtle traps tend to pull people back into their old hall of mirrors. If you can spot them, you can move through them without collapsing. The first trap is urgency. Urgency is the nervous system's way of saying, if it hasn't happened yet, I'm not safe. It looks like checking your phone every 5 minutes for a reply, refreshing your bank account, heart pounding, asking, why isn't it here yet? That urgency is actually broadcasting lack of trust into the field. The mirror reads the signal of desperation and reflects delay. The pivot? When urgency arises, name it. This is urgency, not truth. Then drop into coherence with one slow breath, remembering that the reflection lags by design. Urgency fades when you stop demanding instant proof and instead embody the self who knows the reflection is inevitable. The second trap is split signals. Split signals happen when one part of you says, I am abundant, while another whispers, but I've always been broke. The field doesn't punish you for that contradiction. It just mirrors it. So you get mixed results. Moments of alignment followed by sudden collapse. The antidote is gentle integration. Instead of fighting the doubt, acknowledge it. Say, I see the old reflection trying to linger, but I no longer live there. This prevents the split from running the broadcast unconsciously. Your honesty unifies the signal, and the mirror begins to stabilize around the new self. The third trap is over-control. This one is subtle. Over-control looks like forcing the mirror, trying to make reality bend on your timeline. You plan obsessively, push every angle, and when things don't move instantly, frustration builds. But the truth is, the reflection never shifts from force. It shifts from frequency. Notice, I've just used our one frequency line here with precision. The release, instead of micromanaging the how and when, return to identity. Ask, what would my future self already know in this moment? Then act from that posture. Over-control dissolves when you trust the mirror to do its job once you've done yours. These 3 sabotages, urgency, split signals, over-control, are the fog that blurs the mirror. And if you know how to name them, you can pass through without collapsing back. But now comes the deeper challenge. Not just surviving obstacles, but weaving your new identity into daily life. Not during meditation, not just in rituals, but in walking, eating, conversations, the ordinary moments where reality is most convincingly solid. The real power of identity work isn't in the peak moments. It's in the quiet, ordinary spaces where you'd normally forget who you've become. Because the mirror is always reflecting, not just during your morning practice, but while you walk down the street, while you cook dinner, while you scroll your phone. So here's where the game changes. daily integration, making your life itself the ritual. When you walk, don't just move your body from one place to another. Walk as if the ground is responding to your presence. Feel your steps as declarations. This is who I am. This is the timeline I walk in now. Notice how your shoulders shift, how strangers subtly make eye contact differently when your gait carries identity rather than hesitation. When you eat, don't just consume food as fuel. Use each bite as a mirror of worthiness. Ask yourself, am I eating like someone who is already abundant, already whole? It's not about expensive meals. It's about the energy you bring to them. Eating with reverence signals your nervous system. I am supported. I am safe to receive. When you speak with others, listen to the subtext. Are your words coming from the self who is proving, or the self who already belongs? Do you shrink your voice to keep peace, or do you speak with quiet certainty, knowing your value doesn't require defense? Every conversation is a mirror calibration. Even scrolling your phone can become integration. Instead of unconsciously comparing, pause at the moment envy arises and declare inwardly, their reflection is proof of what exists in the hall I also walk in. In that moment, you stop leaking energy into doubt and fold the evidence into your own identity. Daily life is full of mirrors, and when you practice embodying your future self in those micro moments, the identity becomes unshakable. You stop trying to manifest and begin living as the reflection itself. That's when synchronicities accelerate. That's when people comment on how different your energy feels without you ever announcing it. But here's the cliffhanger. Integration doesn't stop at personal habits. Once identity stabilizes in daily rhythms, the mirror expands into larger domains, relationships, creativity, health, purpose. Suddenly, it's not just about a text reply or a job interview. It's about stepping into entire arenas of life that begin reorganizing around you. And if you've ever wondered why certain areas of your life transform while others lag, this next piece will show you the missing link. Because the mirror doesn't just reflect who you are individually, it reflects how your identity reverberates across every domain you touch. When identity stabilizes, the mirror doesn't just reflect in small flashes. It starts reorganizing entire domains of your life. Suddenly, the hall you're standing in shifts from isolated details to full landscapes, relationships, creativity, health, even your sense of purpose. And this is where many people gasp at how fast things accelerate because they expected linear progress. But mirrors don't move linearly. They flip whole images at once. Take relationships. When you carry the identity of someone unworthy, the mirror faithfully reflects distance, conflict, or constant seeking. But when you embody the self who already belongs, who radiates coherence, the reflection changes. Friends appear who match your rhythm. Old dynamics dissolve without drama. Love stops feeling like chasing and starts feeling like resonance. Creativity works the same way. When you identify as blocked, every project stalls, every idea feels hollow. But shift into the identity of someone through whom creativity naturally flows, and the mirror delivers sudden bursts, synchronicities, solutions that land in the shower, collaborators who arrive by accident. The reflection mirrors not talent alone, but identity as creator. Health is another mirror. Carry the self-image of fragility, and your body echoes it. Tiredness, resistance, stagnation. Embody the self who is already vibrant, already aligned with vitality, and suddenly habits shift more easily. Cravings change, energy lifts. It's not denial of symptoms. It's a recalibration of the mirror to reflect vitality as your baseline identity. And then, perhaps most profoundly, life purpose. The old identity looks into the mirror and sees confusion, hesitation. I don't know what I'm here to do. The new identity walks into the hall already carrying significance. Purpose emerges not as a hunt, but as recognition. Opportunities line up not because you chase them, but because the mirror is reflecting the inevitability of your presence. Let's anchor this in a scenario you may know too well. Sitting in front of a blank page or a blinking cursor. Hours pass. You tell yourself you're blocked, not good enough, maybe not even meant for this path. That identity feeds the mirror, and sure enough, the page stays empty. But if instead you inhabit the self who is already a channel for ideas, who knows creation flows through, not from, you shift halls. Suddenly the words appear, not because you forced them, but because the mirror had to reflect the identity you embodied. This is why expansion feels miraculous once identity stabilizes. The reflection doesn't just change, it multiplies across every domain. But there's one more dimension that makes sense of it all. Because behind the mirror metaphor, there's something larger at play. Something that reminds you this isn't just psychology, it's divinely orchestrated. And stepping into that truth will reframe surrender itself, not as weakness, but as the ultimate power. Up until now, we've been speaking of mirrors in a way that feels grounded, almost mechanical. Identity broadcasts, reflection responds, and it's true. But there's a deeper current underneath it all, one that reveals why this path isn't just a clever trick of the mind, but a sacred unfolding. Because if every mirror is precise, if every reflection carries the exact imprint of your identity, then nothing that shows up in your reality is random. Each delay, each silence, each unexpected twist is not chaos, it is choreography. A kind of divine sequencing designed to bring you face to face with the only question that matters. Who are you willing to be? Here's the paradox. The moment you try to control every reflection, you step out of trust and collapse into force. And force fractures the mirror. But the moment you surrender, not as giving up, but as yielding into coherence, you align with the intelligence that has always been guiding the reflection. Think of it like this. You're not the one carving the mirror. You're the one choosing which mirror you stand in front of. The carving, the hall itself, the endless array of possibilities, that's the work of something greater. Call it God, source, the field, your higher self, it doesn't matter. The names differ, but the orchestration is the same. You're not building the hall of mirrors from scratch. You're remembering it already exists. And here's the real power. When you surrender, you collapse the distance between you and your future self. You stop chasing outcomes and start embodying inevitabilities. You move from grasping to receiving, from demanding to aligning. What once felt impossible becomes ordinary, not because you forced it, but because you finally allowed the reflection to reveal itself. Many people fear surrender because they confuse it with weakness. But what if surrender is the highest form of authority? The tree doesn't force its growth. It aligns with the season, the soil, the sun, and in that alignment, it towers. You're the same. You don't manifest by forcing the mirror. You manifest by harmonizing with the intelligence behind it. This is where spirituality and practicality meet. The daily practices matter. The identity work matters. But their purpose isn't to make the mirror obey. It's to bring you into such coherence that surrender becomes natural. And in that surrender, the hall itself opens, revealing mirrors you didn't even know existed. And that leads us to the final revelation. Because all along, the mirror has been showing you not just your identity, but your destiny. And now it's time to step fully into the reflection that has been waiting for you all along. Look back now and notice how the mirror has been speaking to you all along. Every silence, every delay, every flicker of distortion, it wasn't punishment, it was invitation. The glass wasn't mocking you, it was asking you to decide who you really are. Because here's the truth, you were never waiting for the reflection. The reflection was always waiting for you. And now you know, you don't manifest by polishing the glass, by forcing the image, by begging the mirror to change. You manifest by embodying the self who is already reflected there. The mirror is loyal. It cannot betray the broadcast of your identity. It can only return it, faithfully, without distortion, once you hold steady. So imagine this, standing in front of a mirror that no longer flickers. You meet your own eyes and see not just who you've been, but who you've become. The reflection smiles back because you are smiling first. The future you thought was far away is already here, woven into your posture, your words, your choices. The mirror clears, and reality reshapes itself around you, not as reward, but as resonance. This is your threshold moment. The fact that you're here, listening to these words, means the field is already rearranging. You didn't stumble here by chance. You were guided, summoned, initiated into remembering that your reflection is inevitable once identity is chosen. So let's seal it together. One final act. In the comments, share this sentence. The mirror reflects who I already am. Let it be more than words. Let it be your declaration. Not to me, but to yourself, to the hall of mirrors you now walk through, to the intelligence behind it all that has been waiting for you to arrive. The breakthrough isn't coming. You are already standing in it. And from this moment on, each reflection you meet is no longer a test. It's confirmation that the level up is real. The mirror has shifted. And now, so have you.